That is a crazy, crazy best 11. And I feel like there might be some snubs. Luis Suárez was pretty important to Inter Miami when Messi missed over half the season. Gabriel Peck was unreal for the Galaxy. He won newcomer of the year. I don't know if they could have found room for either one of those two guys. Also, we should mention no Americans. No Americans for the first time ever in an MLS best 11. MLS best 11. Here's my favorite part about it. It's in a 3-3-4 formation, which is everybody's favorite. Everybody's favorite is a 3-3-4 family. Okay, of these players, I think only two defend. So you got Kalina in goal, who was the goalkeeper of the year from Charlotte FC. You got Jordi Alba as one of the back three. That dude doesn't like to defend, and he'll do it, but he doesn't like to.
No, but he would be he would be the left back in a MLS best 11. So we can at least
that's fair.
He would be in the team. Obviously, he's not a true defender in that sense, but because he provides so much at that left back spot, yes, he deserves to be in the best 11.
Okay. Let me get through the lineup and then we can chat. We got Yeimar and Moreira, who was from Columbus Crew, who won MLS Defender of the Year. Congrats to him. I won it back in 2005. That's my flex of the day. We got Evander, Ricky Pooch. You got Acosta in the midfields. Nobody's defending there. You got Benteke, Messi, Cucho, and Bouanga up top. That is, I don't know. I don't know if there's enough ball to share with everybody there. That is a crazy, crazy best 11. And I feel like there might be some snubs. Luis Suárez was pretty important to Inter Miami when Messi missed over half the season. Gabriel Peck was unreal for the Galaxy. He won newcomer of the year. I don't know if they could have found room for either one of those two guys. Also, we should mention no Americans. No Americans for the first time ever in an MLS best 11.
Is that right? First time ever?
Yeah.
Wow. Everyone loves a good 3-3-4. We love a 3-3-4.
No,
I don't. Who would be the Americans that would get in there? I mean, we'd have to go through it. I mean, Schulte, if he had a better year. I mean, would probably goalkeepers would be considered for sure. I was looking at that. I think I had Jackson Reagan over Yeimar. In that I had a 4 because they give you when you vote, right? They give us the 3 or 4 different formations. I don't know if you guys remember. Was there a 3-3-4 formation we were able to pick from? I don't think so. I wonder if we did sort of, one formation, what that would look like. Of course, a lot of this is a popularity contest. But when you talk about, you said Luis Suárez, not going in, you're talking about 5 forwards then. But when I grew up, Jimmy, you know what the formation was for everybody? 2 defenders, 3 midfielders, and 5 forwards. Right, you had an inside right and an outside right with center forward, obviously on the other side. So maybe that's what they're going back to. But maybe we're going to see a new trend start next year, the 3-3-4.
Yeah, Busquets could have been another shout too. Again, not an American, but obviously quite valuable to Miami. So much so that when he didn't play, they weren't winning games. Is there anybody that you think?
Jimmy,
what?
He played the most minutes as a field player for Inter Miami in the record-setting team. And he doesn't get in the best 11? What is this?
Yeah, well, who would you take out then? Because all these guys have put up numbers and were valuable to their respective teams. And I can understand having some balance.
Are we forgetting that there's best 11 for numbers, or there's best 11 for doing the best on the teams that did the best, right? I think it's like similar to an MVP conversation. There can be someone who puts up ridiculous numbers, if their team is
sucks.
middle of the table or bottom of the table versus
just average to good,
average good versus the best player on the most impactful player on the best team, right? That for me is always MVP. The guy that helps his team win, and he's the best player on that team. Like that for me that's the essence of MVP, because you're the best player on a winning team. Like, you're making the players around you better. So I think that both Busquets and Suárez, like, how are they not in this team? And Evander, as good as he was, the Portland Timbers were average to good.
Average to good. They were average to good. Yeah, it's an interesting conversation for sure. And I wonder what MLS makes of it. Yes, to your point, Tones, there is an element of a popularity contest. But even when I look at the overall stats for the league for the whole season, top 10 in scoring, there's no Americans on that list. When I look at assists, there's no Americans, at least in the top 5 that I'm seeing here. that concerns me a little bit, and it's obviously a bigger conversation. That why aren't we
Jimmy,
creative players? We have some obviously in our younger pipelines, but they're not getting those opportunities as of yet.
I mean, I'm sure we can come up with some, Trent Alexander-Arnold on the right-hand side. If you did a Premier League list, you'd have the majority of foreign players on there, right? If you did a Serie A list, there'd be a lot of foreign players on there. Maybe not as much as the Premier League, because it's a little bit more Italian-centric, if you will. But like that's kind of where our league is, right? I mean, it's a lot of the flavor comes from this beauty that we bring different types of players in, and they come in and are successful. So, but yeah, you'd love to see outside of goalkeepers and center backs, you'd love to see some of these guys make these 11s. But I think we're going to get away from that because it's just not the popular choice. And quite honestly, you're paying those guys. You're paying Luis Suárez, and you're paying Lionel Messi, and you're paying Christian Benteke, who's on that list, right? Who was outstanding for a really bad team this year. You're paying them to score goals. That's what you're bringing them in here for. If not, you wouldn't spend all that money on those guys.
Right.
So I'm not too surprised by this, but yeah, you'd love to see a couple of Americans break into this thing.
Yeah, when I look at the Premier League, just because you brought it up, from last season, Phil Foden was Player of the Year. He's English. Cole Palmer was tremendous. You had Bukayo Saka. I think all three of those guys were in the best 11. I'd have to look at it. Maybe Trent makes it, maybe not from last season, but obviously playing a little bit better under Arne Slot. So they have some players that and are creative players. I guess that's where I'm going with this a little bit, Chuck.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not going to argue with you, but at the same time, I mean,
that's smart.
Are we surprised? Like
no.
So it's kind of what we expected.
All right. Yeah,
Like
we do a whole episode on that alone, I'm sure.
It reminds me of when we talk about U.S. men's national team players coming back to MLS, right? If you had those players in MLS, they would be a lot of them you would see in the best 11, I'm sure, as all-stars, best 11. But is that what we want for our players? Do we want them to be MLS best 11s and all-stars, or do we want them where they are playing and competing? And it's not just the general term Europe. It's obviously going to the right situation.
Sure,
I think that's super important. You're not just going to Europe to go to Europe. One, you better be going to Europe because that's where you want to go to get
that's
better, right?
No. I would say that the English players that are in that best 11, let's say for the Premier League, they're in the Premier, that they're staying at what they consider the best league in the world. Whereas if we had our best Americans playing in MLS, I'm sure some of them would be sprinkled in our best 11. I like that take, Chuck. I like that a lot. So we're definitely not arguing.